We're going to talk about how to build the best pipeline in real estate for Q4 and Q1 of this year. Okay, and I'm going to talk to you about things that are working in real time, working with our clients, building that pipeline and keeping them motivated or at least focused on the right things. I'm going to talk to you about how we get that level of authority to influence them by understanding the market. So we're going to cover a few different things. Let me just bullet point this to make it real easy. First, we're going to go over the market, not what the market's doing, but how I have been trained by my mentors to read the market so that I can educate the clients to help them make the best decision, but I can use the data to have a really strong layer of influence that'll combat even the mindset of the media and the buyers and the parents who say don't buy and all that kind of stuff. I will show you how we use that information to empower the conversations so that we have a much more influential relationship that we can develop that'll ultimately lead to helping them win. We'll talk to you also about the different lead sources and some of the nuances. Watching from Czech Republic and Europe, that would be incredible. Is that real? That's a comment that got my attention. Ideal Estates International, baby. Anyway, sorry, I digress. We'll talk about the different buyer leads resources. 10 p.m. Great. We'll talk about the different resources that you can tap into right now of where the most motivated buyers are, where the qualified ones. I'll talk to you about the leads that I pay for and the leads that are free. And I'll talk to you about numbers that you should have coming in every single month if you want this to really work. The goal is to build a really great pipeline so that come December, come November, come January, come February, you're ending strong and you're starting fast. You're starting hard. Okay. I'll tell you, it's really easy to stay positive about goals in your career when you get off to a fast start and you've got wind in your sails. So in order to do that, you got to have the right conversations. So we're going to also talk about the conversational pieces that I use to instantly disarm a majority of the buyers to get to the nuts and bolts of what they really need so that I can offer solutions that they want and get them to move forward with me in the process. I'll even show you guys my dashboard of what I've seen over the last 30 days, numbers and conversational points. All right. That's a lot. It's a mouthful. So grab a pen, grab some notes. If something comes up and you're really struggling with the concept, just chat, let me know. I'll stop and we'll handle it. So first and foremost is the market. Okay. In our marketplace with San Diego MLS, SD MLS. Within there, we have a suite of tools. And I'm going to share my screen so we can go through. It is a product. Can somebody just put in the chat, let me know they've got my MLS dashboard? Got it. All right. So within our dashboard, we've got this tool called InfoSparks. And InfoSparks is through showing time. So it should be available in most markets. I've got my own opinions of showing time and who they're provided by and blah, 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 blah. But for those of you who don't know, there's a company owned by Zillow. So no matter what your personal feelings are, this tool is phenomenal and it will help you make money. And we're just looking at trend lines. So this is the script that I write. And this is, by the way, this is how I look at the market. This is how I've been trained to look at the market. This is how I have a conversation with any buyer that has the naysay. This information will literally put everybody on the back burner of, you don't know more about the market than me. I don't care what articles you read. I don't care. Hey, that's fine. Like, we can all have our opinions and let's talk about it, because I'll bring data that you can't get access to, because you can only have access to this data if you're a licensed MLS agent. So I'll bring you the real information and I'll show you what it is. And I'm going to talk to you about the way I'm looking at the market, but also how I educate them. And this will all layer in. So when we're looking at the market, okay, there's 5, and this is almost right out of my buyer consultation. Okay, there's 5 major metrics that drive the housing market up, down, sideways, left, or right. Now, obviously, we're not sages. We cannot predict it, but we can look to the leading indicators. And if you can do so consistently with the right mindset, there will be some windows of opportunity to present itself in the form of understanding the market. Okay, so number 1 is sales price. And I do this with the clients, both both buyers and sellers. And I do this as a presentation, just like I'm going to do with you, to showcase my grasp of this knowledge, because I want to make sure when I'm talking to them and I've delivered this, the only thought in their head is like, wow, he really knew that information, right? Like, I don't even want to question him on the market because I'm just in cold water. I'm in deep water, or whatever however the saying goes, right? And so this is the presentation. And so, hey, number one is sales price, right? The higher the prices go, less buyers can afford, which means demand comes down. Okay, demand and higher prices. If demand comes down and higher prices, then that means that it has downward pressure. Okay, number two, it's the demand, right? Higher the demand, higher the prices, lower the demand, lower the prices. Demand is measured in closed sales. So number two is the closed sales, the homes that are actually closing. How much demand is currently going on in the market? Okay, number three is supply, measured in inventory. We all know it's a supply and demand thing, right? Well, supply, the inventory, lower the inventory, upward pressure on pricing. Higher inventory, downward pressure on pricing. Okay. And by the way, I use that tonality to make it sound like it's really not rocket science. Like, it's stuff we all know, but we get it clouded by the media and all these different things, and nobody ever really pays attention the way they should, myself included, right, to the different things, because it can get complex. But it's really, for a basic understanding for a buyer seller to give them confidence, really simple. Number four is interest rates. We all know the higher the interest rates go, the less people can afford. The purchasing power gets dwindled. So does the ability for the demand to stay at the same par, because everybody's getting squeezed, and that means that we'll get downward. The higher it goes, the less people can afford. Downward pressure pricing. Okay, lower interest rates means pandemic boom. Just kidding, but I'll say that sometimes too. Lower interest rates means, wow, everybody's going to go get cheap money. And that means that everybody just got a raise and everybody can afford more. They can go get more bang for their buck. Go get it now. That increases demand, which increases pricing. Okay. And last but not least, for the major five metrics, you got affordability. So, household incomes on average, inflation, jobs, all that kind of stuff. Rents. Is it affordable? Okay. Because if it's unaffordable for a lot of people, that means less people can buy. And if less people can buy, that means you get downward pressure on pricing. And so during my presentations, I use this tool as an example. Okay, and this is where we go into, by understanding the market, we can then have a good conversation with our clients, right? And these are things that I make my agents memorize. It's like, and I liken it to this of, if we're professionals, if we're advisors, and we don't know the five major metrics, and we can't just rattle it off, we should be able to pop out of our sleep, roll in a bed, hit our head, and be like, inventory pricing, just right into it. There's five. Like, it should just be on autopilot, in my personal opinion, right? And because I've also seen the power that it gives with your clients. And so, for example, in our market in San Diego, I can look at sales price, right? And we've peaked out at 855 back in May. And this is right around where the interest rates were the highest at that point. Okay, and we saw depreciation. That prices came down. They stalled out at 750, 749, 750, 755. Rates came down. Boom, we got 7% in 1 month. Okay, and so when we look at sales price, we see that we're back at peak pricing, 855, 855. And it's also the smallest price gain over the last 6 months, where we only got 5,000 in average price, right? So prices right now for us, all-time high again. That's where we're at. We're back at the peak, which is also interesting, because usually peak to peak doesn't come within 12 months, right? Or in that time range. Okay, next, you got sold listings. Okay, sold listings is the demand. Okay, and we can see after the last 3 years, demand's been coming down, especially since that May. Coming down. And because of our inventory being locked up by sellers with 3% interest rates, and because of the pricing and all that stuff, there's really not a lot of sales, because there's not a lot on the shelf. Inventory. Okay. Inventory for us was, before pandemic, was 14,000 homes. We got 5. And by the way, when you're looking at absorption rate, months of supply of inventory, we're at 2.6, which is almost almost a neutral market for us. We haven't been there in a while. Okay, so when we're talking to our clients, and I'm sure that if you look in your markets, we're probably experiencing something similar. And you may have to adjust the conversation a little bit to make it as relevant to them as possible. But when I'm speaking to buyers right now, okay, the first thing I need to do before I even get into the conversation is I need to know the numbers. I need to know how they correlate with each other, right? And we can see that as inventory goes up, we tend to see downward pressure on pricing, especially if I go back the last 10 years and I look at the average sales price and I zoom in January, February, December, November, we almost always have a dip in average price. And then they bounce back up in spring, right? And we're in San Diego. I mean, Michigan's got to definitely have a little bounce. They're not selling homes, they're playing hockey, as they should be. Wish I could take December off to play hockey. So with that being said, when it comes to me as an agent going, okay, cool, buyers are upset about the interest rates, buyers are upset about the prices, buyers are upset about a lack of inventory. You know what's really awesome about November, December, January, February? Only the most motivated sellers are on the market. And they've all been winning. They've all made 40, 50% in appreciation over the last 7 years. And the ones that are selling, they got to sell. They want to sell for the most part, right? That's opportunity. That's opportunity, because you're going to get the negative naysayers, because here's the transitioning, right? We know the market. We know how to read it. Here's the transition is now we got to understand the mindset of the buyers when we're talking to them. We got to understand the mindset of the sellers. And it's important to understand the mindset of the sellers when you're working with buyers, so you have the competitive advantage and understand what they're thinking, so that you can relate that value of why they should stay in the game for the buyers. Real simply, sellers, the ones that miss the market, that are I'm only selling if I can get my price and I'm going to move somewhere, they're really not selling in high demand right now or high quantity right now, because they got 3% interest rates. And that next home, even though it's only 400 square feet larger, it's going to cost them an extra $2,000. I mean, we're running scenarios on our clients out here, and people are going from like $3,000 a month mortgage payments to like $7,000 for a home that's $150,000 more. I'm a pretty good salesperson, but I've never convinced somebody to increase their budget by 250% because their son needs an extra space to do his doodling, you know? Believe me, I've tried. I'm kidding. But the point is that we've got this locked up inventory. And so sellers, the seller mindset is they want to find a buyer. You're going to know that's secure in the financing. You're going to notice that as we go through this market, talk to me about the financing. Are they fully underwritten? What kind of contingencies do they have? We're willing to work with you on the price if we can just get the right qualities there. You're going to find sellers that are nervous because they think the whole market and the whole world's going to blow up. And they think that this is it. Now we've got, all these different factors from the economical standpoint, the global standpoint, that, this is it. The prices can't sustain. They still have struggling times with the growth. And they just are like, I just want to get out before it goes down. I'll do something else. Now's the time I want to go. And if they're on in the winter market, that means that they're flexible because they're winning, or they got to sell. Right. So the buyer mindset, they're nervous. They're watching, I'm going to watch the market. I'm going to watch it. Got my binoculars out. Just keep an eye on it. Right. See what these things do. like it's like a bird contest or something. Let's see what they do. They're confused. Especially a lot of buyers that have been like saving up down payments, and then all of a sudden everything gets whacked. They're frustrated. They're feeling hopeless. They're reading clickbait that says, all this negative stuff. And here's the jacked up part about the way the world works is nowadays, if I click on a negative article, I get more negative articles. If I click on positive articles, I get more positive articles. If I look at stories that are this, and this, you go to my Instagram feed, I got business people, workout people, hockey. You go to my wife's Instagram feed, you got puppies, hanging out with guinea pig. You got all kinds of like fun, loving, awesome stuff that just makes you smile. Completely different audience, right? And so these buyers, if they're in that space, they need somebody that understands things and that can get it. The best part is, though, all that stuff is very, very, very easily squashable, because nobody actually looks at the data. And if you read those articles, none of them actually provide any real statistics. They're very generic. They're pulled from all kinds of unreliable sources, and they're easily able to be broken in credibility. I'll give you some at the end when we're talking about the gems and the scripting that we use to just completely undermine some of these silly statements that they make based on some of these articles. But you have to understand that that's the mindset. That's the mindset. And the buyers, they're sitting around like, I think it's going to go on sale. I'm pretty sure it's going to go on sale. They're interested. They're waiting. They're watching. They're hoping. They're hoping things go. People want to buy homes, right? The American dream, own homes. It's intrinsically programmed into them that they're not really grown up until they own their own home, right? So we work in an industry where subconsciously there's this program, you got to get a house. Okay, but rates are up, prices are up, inventory's down, right? Stuff's super expensive. And on top of that, stuff's super expensive. And there's not even a lot of great choices.
Nope.
There's not even a lot of great choices. Things are a little bit tough, right? And as agents, and I promise you, we're going to get into some really fun stuff, but I think it's extremely important to recognize part of the reason why we don't always build pipelines correctly. Part of the reason is we don't know what way to drive the conversation forward. We don't know how to stay optimistic and positive when sometimes we're carrying our own negative baggage. I don't know about you, but I signed up for the house hunter lifestyle. You know, you got endless clients, you got 3 showings, you get paid, there's no problems, escrow is always a breeze. Like, I signed up for that lifestyle, and we don't know what the market's going to be, right? And we have our responsibilities and our issues. And so every now and again, some of that business pressure, some of that personal desire finds its way into these conversations with people, and we tend to be tripping over dollars for dimes. Okay, and so if we understand that, and we can acknowledge that, then we can focus on, okay, so how does this conversation change? How does our perspective flip? How do we build this really great pipeline? How do we educate people? How do we get them there? And where do we find them? Okay, I wrote this down today because there's also a very big negative connotation within our industry about internet leads, and righteously so. I told you I worked with real estate marketing for 8 years, and no joke, my job every day was to cold call realtors all day to set an appointment to show them a website, CRM, and get them to buy leads. And if I didn't have any cold all day, we got a little feedback there. I think it's there. Muted out of love. Muted out of love. With those, and there's so many people that do that job. And 90% of the people that take that job fail within 90 days. So you got a bunch of amateurs running around trying to convince agents that they know their problems when they don't. And even the best ones don't know what your walk of life is. Most of them are in and out of the business within 90 days. They're just trying to hold on to a script and figure out how to work the dialer. They don't have any list, right? Like, and we all want to invest in leads. We all want to see our businesses grow. And there's just so much false information. So I'm not blaming anybody for having a negative mindset, but here's the real situation is that we will also work in a business where anybody's a freaking lead. You could go to a park and walk up to everybody like a creeper and be like, what's up? I'm a real estate agent. I'm here to help people. Do you need some help? And you probably would find some business sooner or later. Keller Williams does bold. They had a woman that she was awesomely optimistic and had this great perspective on life, and she did some weird things. She decided for her bold 100 she was going to go to the mall and just ask random people as she was going through. To me, that's weird. I don't know about you guys. I've got guts, but if I go to the mall, I don't want to ask 100 people like, what's up, you thinking some real estate? All right, I'm your guy. And she did, and she ended up getting a few leads out of it. So when it comes to internet leads, referrals, open houses, networking groups, anywhere that these people come around, the quality of the lead is dependent, in my opinion, on 2 things. One, the timeline and where they're at. Obviously, a lead that you get in contact with is like, I got to buy tomorrow 1 of 3 homes because otherwise I'm homeless and my kids will hate me forever. That's a phenomenal lead. That's as good as it gets. And somebody's like, yeah, I watch a lot of house hunters, love real estate, love looking at real estate, was on Facebook, buying. Yeah, as soon as I get this credit repair done in 8 years and saving up money at the smoothie store to get it. I'm almost there with a down payment. Any buyer assistance programs? Like, obviously that lead, because they're 7 years away, that's a lower quality lead. Number 2 is the validity of their information. Some leads have phone numbers that are 75% correct and accurate. That's good. Some leads are only email. Depends on what you want them for. Depends on how much you're paying for them. Depends on how accurate the email address is, right? But it's validity of information and timeline. Because if you've got somebody that wants to buy in the next 6 months and you can get a hold of them, most of the time, buyers do not sign exclusive buyer representation agreements with people 6 months before they're ever ready to buy. Shoot, most people don't even ask for buyer representation agreements, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a good idea, it's great, and even I myself sometimes like, I'm not asking them. I'm just gonna. They said they're working with me. We're going to see homes. They're fully approved. They're $1 million. I'm good. But when it comes, did you have something? Somebody threw something out there. Maybe just somebody's like, oh, I'm unmuted. All right, so there's different sources. Okay, some of the sources are free, some of the sources cost, some of the sources are now money, some of the sources are long-term money. Long-term money would be an example of Facebook. Okay, Facebook, you're a consumer, you're cruising around, you are flicking through some stuff, you see a pretty picture of a house, you select it, it says, hey, I'll give you some more information if you give me your numbers, give me some digits and I'll let you see the photos. They say, sure, why not? It autofills in Facebook, and they go, we call them, maybe 1% of those are good. What Facebook is phenomenal for is building an audience and building long-term leads. Why? They're cheap. You now have their Facebook pixel. You now have their email address. You now have their phone number. Yeah, we can schedule that. That would be like a buyer consultation training. You can email it, and I'll put it on the agenda. Good question. So they're good for long-term. They're not good if you're trying to invest money and get a deal within the next 90 days. That's not what they're for. They're like 2024, Q3, Q4. There you've got automated filters. Like they're one of the last sources I would go to. And I'm not currently doing them either. My plan is to be out of production way before they ever kick in. Okay, because Facebook, yeah, if you put a massive amount of phone calls into it, a massive amount of effort, you're going to find somebody that is at that intersection. But from a I need to sell 2, 3, 4 homes a month, I need to start building a channel that's consistent and reliable and isn't going to take a massive amount of energy. That's not where I would go yet at that point. That's not the rule for everybody. That's just my generic overview. So if you're in this training to figure out, like where you're going to spend some time or energy, if you're looking to get 2, 3, 4, 5 sales over the next 6 months in an additional source, Facebook is not the one I would go to. Okay. Referrals are great, but the only way to speed up more referrals is by selling more houses so you get more clients that have experienced the joys and pleasures of working with you. Sphere of influence is phenomenal. They're the best type of business. And you couldn't say, you know what, I want to triple my sphere of influence leads next week or next month. I can't do that, right? So it's great. It's free. It comes in. It's one of the benefits. There's some agents that have been in the business 15, 20 years. They got the life. They get 20 phone calls a year. They pick up the phone while they're on the golf course. They say, hello, how are you? Yes, you'd like to buy a house? Great. We'll help you. Done deal. Those are the best. Okay. Networking groups are great. They take time as well. They're a little bit more long money, right? You can go to networking groups, and networking groups might be Facebook groups where a couple examples, like, so I'm an ice hockey player. So I'm in San Diego hockey friends and or hockey group or whatever the hell they call. And I will just comment on stuff, and I will I've aligned my business with working with a couple different military hockey groups here that help veterans that have been through stuff, and hockey helps them through healing. Go figure. Those 3 of the leads that I got in 4 months afterwards. Yeah. That's the point, is you can make anything work if you're in the right space and the right mindset. Right? That's awesome. And maybe that's the strategy, right? What are you doing on Thursdays, Robin? The usual. Going to the airport, do a little prospecting, crushing it, killing it. Holy shit, you sold 70 homes this year. Yeah, who'd have thought? The airport. You know how many people are moving in and out? Robin becomes a phenomenal coach, and she's like, how I turned airports. That would be awesome, by the way. There was a guy at Keller Williams that got on stage, was doing like 70 deals a year. And his whole gig was he went out and bought a popcorn machine and one of those bounce houses, and he gave it to his clients for the kids' birthdays. And then that added a margarita machine, and then he added, you're very welcome. That's bold. I love it. Then he added, the pin the tail on the donkey stuff. He did but he had like 4 storage lockers of just party shit. And he had all stickers on it and all that stuff. And he just went out and did that. And he was like, that's my thing. I go hang out at kids' parties. And it's like, no, you're not a creeper at all. Just kidding. But seriously, that's what he did. It's like, oh, you're the realtor that got all this stuff. That's all. Like, you can literally make anything work that you want to work if it's in your zone. For me, I've always been really good at listening to people's problems and giving them some solutions, giving them some different perspectives. And so when it comes to, and I have so much practice on the phone. For me, the phone was always the best. It's cheap, it's efficient. I can do it from almost anywhere, and I don't have to pay $5 a gallon for gas. It's great. And I can hit a lot of people real quickly. I can even load up a dialer and do 100 dials in an hour if I'm dialing a low quality lead list. So for me, dialing was great. My number one focus that I feel is one of the best returns by far in real estate is realtor.com leads. Google is great. Google is a higher quality than Facebook. Google is about $25 a lead in most markets. The challenge with Google is that it's $25 plus you've got to pay management fees for people to run them. Who you hire, everybody's a Google expert, but there's definitely only a few that actually know the stuff. And the people that actually know the stuff are relatively expensive, $400, $500, $600, $700 a month, but they get cheaper leads and they get better quality leads and they set up long tail. Like, it's good. And the quickest way to build pipeline with buyers are if you got money, is realtor.com leads. And if you don't have money, is open houses. Those are the 2 sources. Going back to what I said, right? Timeline, validity of information. So realtor.com timeline, the way they capture their leads, it's a passive lead capture. Okay, so most Google leads, most Facebook leads, they work this way. You want something? I got something you may want. See this beautiful house? If you want some information, boom, lead capture. Give me your information. Okay, it's a forced registration, which typically leads to lower quality conversions because you're teasing me and then holding me hostage. Works, gets people, but you're usually only getting about 10% of all people to fill out the form. And then usually you're only getting about half of the people to give you information. So really, out of 100 people going through that process, you get 5 leads where they have even 1 piece of good information. Okay, realtor.com, these portal leads, the clients never see a lead capture device unless they fill one out on their own. They can search on Zillow, realtor.com, Redfin, all these different platforms. They can search on these platforms forever without ever being forced to register in their home search process. And then, of course, they've got on the side, hey, if you have some questions. So the only time they're filling that out is when they're opting in and saying, I have some questions. The other really cool thing about realtor.com is you can go out and predictively buy the amount of leads that you want. You can go out and buy. So if you want 2 to 3 sales a month, you need about 20 to 30 leads. If you're good with those and you work the process and you follow it, if you're good, you can get, I've got a buddy that does 70, 80 homes He was doing 200 or 300 in the pandemic boom. He's one of Zillow Flex's top people. They're converting at about 8%, 9%. Yep. So then you got to lead with revenue, and that brings to the next place, right? So that's a barrier of entry. So a couple things you can do with Realtor.com leads. For those of you guys who have looked out into them, and I'm gonna get into conversation, I'm gonna get into flow, I'm gonna get into the scripting, and all that kind of stuff here in a minute. But for the lead source, you need 10 to 15 to start. 10 to 15 is a month enough to get the pipeline going. Okay, that's number one. And the reason why you need enough to get it going is because it's a habit thing. It's a habitual thing. If you don't have one lead coming in every other day, then it becomes this one-off thing, and you just never really get into rhythm of, like, when that lead pops in, you got to instantly follow up with them. They raise their hand, they said, I have a question. I want to be there within seconds of that moment, because we've got really, really bad attention spans nowadays. So you have the ability to get into them, but you need 10 to 15 minimum. I'm doing a campaign right now. Where are you at, by the way, Sarah? And the second thing about those leads, not the second thing, but two things that you want to know about the leads is, one, Palm Beach Gardens. One, work the reps. By the way, I always work the reps. So the reps, they have turnover in their business. They hate turnover. You know who they love? They love the agents that buy a bunch of leads and then promise to buy more leads and grow. And what I always remind them, because they're saying, you got to work the leads, they're good leads, blah, 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 blah. And I worked on that side, so I know what they're trying to do and all that good stuff. And I've written the scripts and stuff. So, like, they're looking to build relationships with people that get started, sell some homes, and grow. And so when you talk to the reps, say, hey, look, I'm going to lead with revenue. I'm going to start small, and then the moment this thing starts turning and cranking, I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up. And that's what I always tell when I sold those homes in my first 65 homes in those first 2 years, 75% was Realtor.com, but I had 5,000, 6,000. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because they work. And so you definitely want to get on those waiting lists if there's areas that you want, but you can leverage them and say, hey, I've got this ability to convert leads. I'm going to follow up instantly. I'm going to do a great job with them. And as soon as I get my first few closings in 90 to 120 days, I'm going to double down. What can you do to help me with price? And what they'll do is they'll find little different ways, like, well, hey, if you spend $200 more a month, we can get you in this package, and then we can bundle it up, and they can go after it. Be cautious about the ones that are on super, super discount, and there's like 7 or 8 or 9 territories. I'll give you an example. In my territory, there's a zip code called 92120. It's Del Cerro, San Diego. Great neighborhood, great area, great price point, high desire, decent amount of inventory, a range of pricing, meaning it's not just high-end homes, it's a range of everything. Bad zip code, because there's also 3 mobile home parks in there. So 70% of what you get is the low price points. Is it worth it? Yeah. Is it great? But you want to be more in the average price. So, like, for us, our average price is $850. I want to be in neighborhoods where there's 7 to 9, 7 to 1. And I want to be in zip codes where there's no mobile home parks or manufactured parks, if at all possible. And I want to be in somewhere where I can get lower cost per lead, because they don't always buy in that area. So I'm really just looking to target where are the best deals with the inventory for the entry-level buyer or the mid-range buyer that is going to have the down payments, that is searching in the right areas, and where can I get the lead cost down as much as possible. And then I leverage it. The other thing I do is I go to my preferred lender. When I was at Agent Jet, I taught lenders how to partner up with agents and use these systems. And I showed agents how to set up the relationship so that it was profitable, and they kept getting more investments from the lender. Okay. And so the lenders want to participate in this if you're going to work the leads. And funny enough, so when I first got into real estate, I hadn't sold a single home, and I went out and I found 3 lenders, and I cold called them, and I just said, hey, my name is Josh Pono. I am a future top producing agent. I am putting some systems and models in place, and I'm looking for somebody that's a phenomenal lender that knows how to navigate the market and can be a value asset to our business and also is willing to partner on some lead generation. Are you open to a conversation? And they three of them said sure. And I went in there and I pitched them for $2,500 a month from them. So $5,000 budget, $2,500 a month. Two of them laughed at me and said, how many homes have you sold? I said, none. And they said, and you want $2,500 a month? I said, for the first 6 months, yes. And they said, what about after the 6 months? I said, we'll want to spend more. And they laughed me out of their office. But one gave it to me. And that one profited really well. Because the reality is the lenders want to partner with agents because every time they pay for a lead, you get a lead. You're going to go do all the heavy lifting. It's like the best lead source ever for lenders. Wait. I got to pay for half the lead. You do all the work. You follow up with them. You tell me when they're ready to be pre-approved. You hand them off to me and set me up on a pedestal so it's a lay-down sale. And then on top of that, you'll also give me referrals on your other business you're doing. Yeah, I'm in. The question that they have is whether or not as agents we're going to be honorable, because so many agents have gone out there and said, I'll partner up with you, we'll do leads, and then they didn't work the leads, and then they didn't get results from the leads, and then they didn't have answers on why they didn't get results, and then they also didn't give them referrals because their business wasn't growing, and they didn't really want to. They wanted to work with a private lender, make them their mistress. They wanted to make that, and so there's a little bit of some negative connotation. But if you let the lender know, listen, I'm going to work the lead. I'm going to call them instantly. I've got all the right conversations. I'm going to work these leads to get them into the pipeline. I'm going to explain the differences of the market. And here's the best part. We're not going to spend any more money until we get our first sale, and then we'll increase the volume. And this will just continue to grow because this is a good source of it. If you can convince them of that, which isn't very difficult, because keep in mind, lenders typically have done a lot more cold calling and outbound selling in comparison to agents. They cold call a lot more than we do. If you compare the larger groups, because they buy a lot of mortgage leads. They're more on the hardcore closers, right? They're more on the phone sales guys. And you find more of those than you typically do of cold calling real estate agents. So they understand leads work. And you can go them. And the best part is realtor.com. They bill them directly. They do the agreement. They do it directly with them so that all the payments, your hands are off the money, all that stuff. Possibly. Zillow's on their own kick. I don't pay for Zillow leads. I got friends that work at Zillow. I don't pay for Zillow leads, and I definitely see some of the moves they've made where they made a business move. Why charge somebody $250 or $300 a leads when we can charge them 35%? So when it comes to the best places to go, and it's those 10 to 15 leads, right? And so if you're doing 10 to 15 leads and you don't have a budget, or the leads are too expensive, or you can't get them, then you got to get them somewhere. Open houses. And open houses, it's not about, did I do one a month? Do I do two a month? Do I do three a month? You get 15 leads. One of the best ways that our agents get better quality information for their open houses is they promise a Starbucks gift card raffle. Hey, listen, my seller is super, super focused on finding out what the market thinks of their property. And I told them that I would do that. And the only way I can do that is if I get feedback from the people that have seen it. So I've got a Starbucks gift card, $10. The only requirement to be part of the raffle are two things. One, I've got to have your information so I can call you when you win. And two, when I call you, you've got to give me their feedback. Go ahead and fill out this information right here, please. Thank you. Okay, make that awkward moment of collecting their information so you can follow up with them a little bit more enjoyable. A little bit more enjoyable. All right. Any questions or thoughts or ahas at this point? Otherwise, I'm going to transition into the conversational pieces and some of the things that I've been giving the buyers to completely drop their guard from the moment I speak to them. All right, fair enough. All right, so we've talked about the market. We've talked about the leads. whether you're talking to a referral, whether you're talking to a open house lead, whether you're talking to an internet lead, their guard is up because they do not like the current conditions of buying and they're hoping for better conditions. And their thought process when they meet any salesperson, not always, but most of the time, any salesperson, sometimes especially real estate agents, is that we have commission breath. And what does that mean? Oh, just hop the gates, build a slide. I do not know what that's like, and that definitely is an issue. So with that being said, we know what they're going through, we know where they're at, and their guard is high. When the guards have guns, that's an incredible neighborhood. My guards have flashlights and they don't exist. Gotta have fun. So when we're talking to these leads, the first thing I want to do is I want to disarm them. I got to disarm them right away. I've got to disarm them right away. Because their perspective is that if I want to talk to them, it's because I want to show them a house and I want to get them the property and I want them to, you know, go buy, and they're not even sure. That's true. It's Palm Beach. They're not even sure if they're ready to buy, if it's the right time to buy, and they're nervous about the interaction. And so when I reach out to anybody, it's the same formula that we use for our cancel and expired program, where it's familiarity, it's positivity, it's friendliness, it's personality, and we come out and we say, hey, Sarah, Josh Pono, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Oh, hey, what's going on? Hey, listen, and if this is an internet lead, hey, listen, I got a notification you were looking at some homes in my areas that I specialize in. Out of curiosity, how's the home search going? That's it. Out of curiosity, how's the home search going? Or, yeah, you know, we heard you were an awesome agent and that we should talk to you. Hey, that's awesome. How's the home search been going? They're already searching online. Everybody's searching online. There's people on Facebook searching online a year, 2 years. We already talked about that, right? So nobody really just wakes up one day and is like, you know what? It's freaking Tuesday. Sun's out, guns out. Let's go buy a house. We'll just use the first realtor we see. So, hey, how's the home search been going? And what'll happen is, because it's kind of a generalized question by design, they'll start to just give you some details of where they're at. You know what? The people that put their guard up, they come out pretty quickly. Well, here's what's going on. Here's your obstacles to getting into relationship with me, right? Here's what's stopping me. Or, I don't trust you. I'm not giving you any information. It's been going, blah, 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 blah. Okay. One thing that I've been asking people pretty early on in the conversation, and you got to decide when it's important, is I've been saying, and this has been flipping the script pretty well right now, especially with the mindset of the media and the buyers. Hey, out of curiosity, you don't have to buy right now, right? Like if you knew that you were going to get a better home at a better price and it wasn't today, would that be okay with you? Do you have to move right now? And they're like, no, I don't have to move at all. I could wait forever, right? Like, no, I'm definitely looking for the right deal. The moment you do this, you're saying to them, I'm not going to sell you today. The moment you do that, you're letting them know, I actually think it's in your best interest not to buy today. Agents don't want to say that because, one, they're nervous if they say that, then all of a sudden the buyer will be like, okay, then I'm never buying. I've had some buyers that I've told not to buy something. They're like, Josh, I love it. Don't care. Buying it. Right. So I don't think we can actually convince somebody to buy a house at this exact moment. I think we can layer 35 conversations that'll lead to a higher probability of outcome. But I have no problem, and I've never had it happen where somebody's like, well, actually, you know what? I need to buy right now. Otherwise, I'm homeless. But because you told me to wait, I'm going to go ahead and wait. What typically happens is the people that are buying right now, that have to buy right now, they typically have a level of urgency and they come out and say it pretty quickly. And so the line is phenomenal because it instantly just, everybody's like, and I've had people in the last 30 days like, you know how I knew I wanted to work with you? I said, how? They said, because you started out by letting me know that I should wait and there was a better time. I said, perfect. And why am I saying that? Because of this right here. Because every year we've dipped at least a little bit, and because the things that cause the market to slow down here are happening exactly here, and it's time. What's the line again? Which one? Oh, the icebreaker. It's just any form of hey, so on realtor.com, they come out for specific properties like, hey, that's a fantastic home. And I don't mind showing it real quick though. You don't like have to buy this one. Like, if you found like you're not married to this home, if you knew you were going to get a better price on a home just as good as nice or even better at a later time, do you have flexibility in your schedule, or do we have to go see this one right away? And you can phrase it however you want. It's more about letting them know that, hey, you could buy now, but we're right here. And historically, we're going to be probably somewhere in here in the next couple of weeks because here's the best thing. There's if you're looking to buy, you're looking to buy when there's the most motivated / desperate sellers. Are you not? Yeah. Do you have a plan on how to identify when they're going to show up? Buyers almost always say no. Okay. And the questions that I ask them are all around helping them put a plan in place. If you don't have a plan in place, then you're planning to fail. Okay. And when we talk to these buyers, I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, sounds like to me, you want to get here's the line. Nobody ever says no. It could be whatever, but you could say it to anybody and they're like, yeah, that's the plan. Sounds like to me, the plan is to get the best home at the best price on the perfect timeline for you and your budget. Is that right? Uh-huh. Great. Knowing how to get the right plan in place comes from understanding the market, comes from knowing when the most desperate sellers are going to be around, and it comes from knowing how to find the off-market deals. How's the inventory been going for you online? Are you overwhelmed by all these options currently? Are you swimming in choices? Are you experiencing paralysis by analysis? Good question, Natalia. Okay, I'll handle that in a second. Real quick, when we talk to the buyers, we talk to them about time. If you want to time the market, if you want to get the best deal, be like the buyers that were looking at homes here and here. They were making lower offers. Their offers were just above slightly offensive. Just above that. We didn't punch you in the kidney, but we punch you in the ribs. Just above it. Don't get emotionally attached to the property. Throw it in. Let's go find the desperate seller. Let's go paper some offers. Let's go put some stuff in, but let's wait right before it jumps. And let's leverage the 2-to-1 buy down program where for the first year, you get 2% off your interest. By the way, most agents and most lenders don't even understand that program. It's really just the seller takes 15 grand and gives it to the buyer. That money goes into an escrow account, and every month for the first year, the delta of what the interest rate minus 2% would be comes off of that escrow account. If they decide to refinance in between the first 2 years, they can use that money to pay for the refinance. And if the refinance is less expensive than the balance, then they can even use that balance to lower the debt, which means it's a dollar for dollar credit. So it's not like paying the bank where the points just go in the pocket and they get rich and they lose that money when they refinance. It's a really good value and it alleviates a lot of problems. It's only really useful when the seller's paying for it in a down market. The recording will be out, and so on some of this other stuff towards the end, I'm running out of time, but they'll be recorded. So when we talk to the sellers or the buyers, we talk to them about being able to time the market, being patient, and waiting for the right time. And the plan right now is to stay engaged. Don't check out. Don't just decide you're going to sit and wait. Sit and wait means you're not watching. Watch, tour, evaluate. And then if you really want to buy and get the best deal, it's likely, not guaranteed, but it's likely to be in the place that historically for the last 25 years in a row is always the lowest point of that year. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't drop later, but by buying 15% or 10% below the peak, you're creating a buffer because that peak is only the peak for right now. Long-term, even after other crashes, we don't ever see that peak again. We didn't see the peak of the crash of the 80s after it got past it. We didn't see we're not going to see the crash or the peak back then, right? It just keeps going up. The trend line is there. And of course, you mentioned along the way, hey, listen, I'm not, and I take this away, I'm not trying to tell you I can predict the market. What I can tell you is the market has characteristics that tend to repeat itself. What I can tell you is real estate is cyclical. What I can tell you is the 5 major metrics that drive the market suggest this could be a repeat occurrence, at least here locally in my market. And of course, you understand I'm not a sage. I can't read the future. If I could read the future, I would not be in real estate. I promise you that. But if you're truly interested in getting the best deal with the most motivated or desperate sellers with the least amount of competition, then you stay engaged, you stay focused, and I update you on the 7th of every month with the new numbers that come out. A career buyer. What do you mean by that? Meaning they've just been forever? How many's forever? How many showings? How long of a time?